Hey everybody, what's up? Hexlex here. In today's Master Duel video, we are going to take a look at some games from the XYZ Festival. It is currently the morning of the 17th at the time I am recording this, and we have just played quite a few games at the XYZ Festival with our Zoodiac deck. I've been having a lot of fun with that. We're going to take a look at the list right here. As you can see, we've got the XYZ Festival list, which as we look here is... Wait for it. Going to be the exact same list that I've been using in all my videos. Yep, I have not changed a single card. You can see we still got 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Droll and Knockbird, 3 Maxx, and 3 Ash. We have 2 Skull Meister, 1 Bunnyblast, 3 Whiptail, 3 Thoroughblade, and 3 Ramram, as well as 2 Nibiru. We've got a Harpie's Feather Duster, a Monster Reborn, 2 Pot of Avarice, 3 Pot of Desires, 2 Lightning Storm, 3 Tenki, 2 Call by the Grave, and 3 Impermanence. Extra deck's going to have Utopic Future and Utopic Draco Future. We've got 3 Tigermoartar, 1 Drident, 2 Boarbow, 2 Hammerkong, 3 Chakanine, 1 Vespenato, and 1 Divine Arsenal AA-ZEUS. So as you can see, yeah, we are using the exact same list that I've been practicing with. I have not changed a single card for this event. Because the ban list has banned any sort of tech cards that might be used against XYZ monsters, like Flying Sea or Dimensional Barrier. I know I saw a lot of people saying that those would be useful, but you know, I kind of figured they would be banned, which is one of the reasons I tested a list like this, one that looked more like a standard list, because I figured that there wouldn't be too many specific tech cards to include. I actually was kind of trying to figure out if I would have to replace Zeus in the nights before the festival here, because I was pretty certain that Zeus was going to get banned, but nope, we are allowed to use Zeus for the festival, so that is pretty good for us. Alright, so I do have replays for you guys. I have some live duels, or rather I plan on getting some live duels recorded here shortly. So you will be seeing videos with live commentary upcoming in the next upcoming few days rather. Today's video is going to be replays. I've got quite a few to share with you already. If we go ahead and take a look here, you can see I've got 7 games. Let's go ahead and hop right into the first one. It's been really interesting to see what the very early meta is like, right? Like I said, this is still the morning of the 17th. It's about 11 o'clock at the time I'm recording this in my time zone. And I believe that means the festival has been live for like 8-ish hours now, maybe a little bit more. So you can see our opponent is going to be playing the Phantasm Spiral deck, and I actually ran across a couple of these, not just this one. Seems to be one of the more popular like anti-meta options. Anti-meta like stun decks are definitely one of the archetypes I've seen floating around in this festival, where they're not even necessarily like trying to play XYZ monsters themselves, they're just trying to stop us from playing XYZ monsters. But as always, we're the luckiest player in the world, and we just opened Harpie's Feather Duster, so we don't have to worry about any of our opponent's back row, not their Phantasm Spiral traps nor their Torrential Tribute. And as you can see, I mean, we've got a Zeus coming up here, as well as Effect Veiler, Maxx, Ash, and Nibiru in hand, which is way overkill against this deck, but it's cool that we have like all of the hand traps plus Zeus here. Bit of an exciting way to start here. Other decks that I've seen a few times now, I've seen, of course, other Zoodiac decks. I've seen a couple of Numeron decks. I expected those. I've seen quite a variance of the stun decks, actually. Like I've seen multiple Phantasm Spiral decks, like I mentioned. I've also seen just some straight up like with Banisher of the Radiance. I actually lost to a stun deck that just had like Banisher of the Radiance, they flipped Gozen match, which actually doesn't really do a whole lot against Zoodiacs, but they did have There Can Only Be One, which I didn't realize until I got it flipped against me, that if you're playing Zoodiacs and you get There Can Only Be One flipped against you, you still can't sack into another Zoodiac XYZ monster, which I don't particularly understand. Great bait from our opponent here, by the way. They summoned the Planet Pathfinder and used its effect before they activated the Card of Demise to bait out my Ash, which they successfully did. So even though I did have this used to just clear their board anyway, I do have to applaud my opponent for that bait. It was a very, very good one. Yeah, but like I said, I didn't realize that there can only be, I didn't realize the trap card There Can Only Be One would actually stop me from stacking Zoodiac XYZ monsters. Really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, I guess I can see why it is ruled that way, but at no point do I have multiple monsters on the field, so I don't really particularly understand why that's the case, but I suppose it is. So in any case, we won that duel pretty handily there. Let's go ahead and move straight into the next one here. You know, this is a reason I do sort of like this XYZ festival here, though, is that it's shaking up the meta quite a bit. Well, rather, it's not even shaking up the meta. It's created its own meta. And over the next week, we'll get to see how this meta evolves and what decks kind of rise to the top. That's why I haven't made any, like, best decks for the XYZ Festival. You can see we're playing as Time Thief here. They've got their Regulator, which is kind of like their Rescue Rabbit. But fortunately, we've got an Ash Blossom, so we don't really have to worry about theirs too much. Yeah, no, that's why I haven't made, like, a best decks for the XYZ Festival, because, I mean, we could hypothesize, sure, but ultimately there is going to be a metagame that does form here, and there are going to be, like, within the scope of this festival and its ban list, like, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Rogue decks, so I'm gonna wait a little while, I think, before I make a video like that, if I make a video like that. If you'd like to see, like, a tier list of the decks for the XYZ Festival, do let me know in the comments. I mean, I'm not going to wait till the end of the XYZ Festival. Yeah, here we get hit with a Mirror Force, which I haven't seen, like, at all in Master Duel yet. I'm not going to put it out, like, at the end of the festival. It'd probably be, like, the second or third day, ideally. But, yeah, if that's something you'd be interested in seeing, do let me know, and I will work on that. Yeah, so since we got hit with that Mirror Force, we're going to have to go into another Zoodiac monster here. I'm going to use Thoroughblade's effect, even though I don't particularly need to, and yeah, we're just going to get another Whiptail anyway, so it's fine. I'm going to make a Hammerkong and then attack, because I want to invest as few XYZ monsters into this, like, zoo setup as possible, right? Because I don't want to stack a bunch of stuff, and then, you know, like, I don't want to stack 3 Zoodiac monsters and then a Boarbow, and then try to attack with the Boarbow, because if that Boarbow gets, like, for example, Mirror Force, like we got Mirror Force earlier, then we're losing out on, like, you know, 4 Zoodiac XYZ monsters at once, which is really going to hamper what we can do in the future, unless we draw an Avarice, which, if we look at our banish here, we actually did banish both of our Pot of Avarice, so yeah, we definitely don't want to invest too many materials here. I think I accidentally did that earlier with my first play. Yeah, I kind of invested like 2 more XYZ monsters than I needed to, but we get the concede in response to Zeus anyway. The concede in response to Zeus, you're gonna find it's a bit of a recurring theme in our games here. It's probably gonna be a bit of a recurring theme this whole week if we're playing the sec. I have actually considered, not just considered, I am planning on trying out some other decks with the festival as well. So I don't believe it'll just be Zoodiacs, but we'll be on the lookout this week to see some more decks that we try out here. Our opponent's going to be playing Tenacity of the Monarch, so I'm just going to snap off the Ash because I don't want them to get Pantheism, and I'm not particularly scared of a Joyous. So sure enough, they just set 1 card and pass. I want to Harpies the 1 card just because, you know, it's Monarchs. I know they're not known for having a lot of back rows anyway, so if they only set 1 after their first turn, I'm comfortable just getting rid of it with Harpies. We're going to play a Desires. It's going to get ashed, but I'm ultimately okay with this because I still have a Zoodiac Ramram anyway, so I have plays, and our opponent's only got 2 cards in their hand, one of which I know is a Joyous. So I really know they're going to have to rely on their top decks in order to basically come back from this duel at all. Now, unfortunately, the hand traps in our hand right now, Maxx and Nibiru, are not particularly great in this matchup. I actually kind of considered dropping Nibiru for this event when I ran into like this Monarch deck and then, you know, a whole bunch of stun decks, but I quickly realized no, I need Nibiru, I think, for other Zoodiac decks and Numeron decks. Zoodiac and Numeron I kind of anticipate are being like 2 of the tier 1 decks for this format. Again, I haven't, obviously the format's only 8 hours, I mean I think maybe 9 at this point, hours old at this point, so it's a little bit too early to say exactly what the meta is going to shake out to be. I think we need to wait for at least the first 24 hours to pass before we can make that assessment. And I personally also need to play a lot more games in this format before I can make that assessment. You need to have a large sample size when you're making, you know, broad sweeping statements. At least I try to employ that anyway. I try not to make like generalizations based on like only a handful of games. We're going to Maxx in response to the Prime Monarch. That's about the only time I think I'm going to get to use it. I'm also going to Zeus in response to the Prime Monarch being summoned, because I know my opponent's got a Joyous in their hand, and I definitely don't want their card to get banished. Same with this AA-ZEUS here. I'm immediately going to Zeus in response to the normal summon, again, even though it's only one card, because I don't want to lose my Zeus to the Joyous here. Again, I could Joyous, or I could use Zeus in response to the Joyous summon and get rid of it, but then my Zeus would still get banished. So our opponent sets one back row. Now with their tenacity, for some reason, let me actually go to, here we go. Yeah, for some reason with their tenacity, they tried to grab 3 copies of the Monarch's Erupt here. So I was pretty sure that was the card they had set, so I wasn't particularly trying to Zeus. I thought my opponent might be trying to bait my last Zeus activation by setting the Monarch's Erupt, but, I mean, they surrendered anyway the next turn, so it doesn't particularly matter. I was afraid they were going to get Stormforth. I don't know why they didn't, to be honest. They could have Stormforthed my monster. Even if they only summoned Joyous and Joyous banished itself, that would still get rid of my Zeus, and it would deal 1,000 damage to me. Alright, let's move into the next game here. Maybe my opponent didn't have Stormforth. I actually don't know what rarity it is. I think it's a super. I know it's not an ultra. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the, we already saw this game. My apologies for that. Yeah, okay, we need to go up to this one here. Alright, now let's move into the next game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't grab Stormforth there. I mean, I don't know if it's at 3. Maybe they didn't have 3 copies, but, you know, you'd think they'd pick at least one of the cards being Stormforth there. So we're going to go first this time. I'm going to activate Desire starting off here because, as you can see, my hand's not too great. Doesn't have a Zoodiac, but we get the Whiptail off the Desire, so that's fine anyway. Taking a look at our banished cards here, you can see we did lose, well, I mean, if it'll let me scroll here in a moment. That is a little bit thing that's annoying about replays. Yeah, we banished all 3 of our Thoroughblades, but I'm not particularly concerned with that, to be honest. I've already got the Drident set up for the first turn, and that's going to be fine enough for me. So I'm going to pop the, what is this card? Ragged Gloves. I'm going to pop the Ragged Gloves when it's normal summoned right away, mostly because here's what I figure, right? And I actually want to pause this because I want to talk about this play a little bit. So here's what I figure, right? If my opponent's going to start off their Phantom Knight play by normal summoning Ragged Gloves. Now, to be fair, I have not played Phantom Knights in Master Duel. I played PK Fire once in a regional in 2016. It's my only experience with Phantom Knights. I don't know much of the new stuff. I mean, I know about... I've played against it a few times, obviously, but not played with it. So... But if I know my opponent is just starting off by normal summoning Ragged Gloves, my first thought is like, well, surely they have Silent Boots and they're just trying to go into plays that way, right? So that's why I immediately Drident to destroy the Silent Boots, or the Ragged Gloves, even though I knew that would trigger Ragged Gloves effects, which would let my opponent foolish a monster by banishing Ragged Gloves. Again, I figured, okay, well, if my opponent, you know, gets Ragged Gloves and then special Silent Boots and then overlays, then I just pop the XYZ monster. Well, they're still going to get the Ragged Gloves effect in the graveyard. They'll also get the Silent Boots effect in the graveyard. So for that reason, I decided to just get rid of the Ragged Gloves right when it was summoned. Yep, here I'm going to move into a Whiptail on my next turn. I'm going to summon it and then just go into Hammerkong. Again, in the interest of investing as few materials as possible before attacking, I'm just going to get Hammerkong and attack with it and Drident. I'm going to keep the Drident around, and then I'm going to overlay a bunch of units onto the Hammerkong in order to make the Zeus here. And also, since I can only get a 4 material Zeus anyway, since I already summoned Drident, I'm going to use Chakanine to bring back the Whiptail here to set up some other potential future plays as well. But our opponent's going to concede in response to that, so... Again, like I said, conceding in response to Zeus, going to be a bit of a recurring theme here. Alright, this is game number 5, I believe. Yes, game number 5. Okay, this is looking like a really solid going second hand. We've got Maxx and Skull Meister in the way of hand traps, as well as a Lightning Storm. Our opponent's playing Trains. They've got a Ruffian Railcar, and then a set card, and pass. So we are going to immediately snap off our Lightning Storm on this one back row. It's Called By, which wouldn't have affected us too much anyway, but all the same. I'm going to lead with Tenki to, as happened here, bait out Ash, and then I'm going to Desires. Since I already have the Thoroughblade, I'm not too fussed if Tenki gets negated. It's fine here. So yep, I'm going to summon Thoroughblade, and then we are just going to go straight into Boarbow. As I said before, we are investing minimal XYZ monsters before making our attack. Now that we've successfully attacked, now we can start stacking on a bunch of XYZ monsters and then summoning Zeus. Now, it is worth considering if you think your opponent might have Nibiru, because when I was playing my opponent at this point, I did consider, what if my opponent has Nibiru? I'm gonna go for the 6 material Zeus anyway, because it's, you know, ultimately the right play, and the odds of it being Nibiru in Trains with 2 cards in their hand is pretty low. But if you're playing like a meta deck and or they have a lot of cards in their hand, it is worth considering. I'm not saying it's always right, but it's worth considering, like, stopping and just making a 4 or even 2 material Zeus, as long as it keeps you, like, you know, under 5 summons, because Zeus is particularly devastating, or not Zeus, Nibiru is particularly devastating against the Zoodiac deck when we're setting up our 6 material Zeus, because, you know, we hit 5 summons before we get to the Zeus, and the token we get is only going to be as big as our Zoodiac monster, so Nibiru is actually fairly scary. You can see here, like, I'm just going to completely bully my train opponent, right? They start to set up plays, I Zeus their board, they try to search with Ruffian Railcar in the end phase, I'm just going to pop off the Skull Meister and negate it. Like, again, I mean, I feel a little bad here, because it does feel a lot like bullying, but, you know, at the same time, we gotta get the medals. So here I am going to, actually I do have a plan here. I'm going to first go into Hammerkong and then Chakanine, so I can detach the Hammerkong for Chakanine's effect to summon the Drident back to the board before I overlay the Chakanine into Tigermoartar. Now I'm going to use Tigermoartar's effect, detaching Chakanine to attach the Thoroughblade from my graveyard. That, in addition to the Thoroughblade already attached to Tigermoartar and the 100 attack from Tenki, will boost her up to 3300, which combined with Zeus is going to be exact lethal here. Which, at this point, is just bullying. Again, I'm just bullying a trained opponent. Train's one of those decks, it's like Tunes, right? It's like one of that game we played against a Tune opponent. I just felt bad, like... I feel like Trains is like Tunes in that anybody who's playing a Train deck is clearly just trying to have some fun. And here I am being the meta playing tryhard. But that's okay, because meta decks are fun. Winning is also fun. Alright, let's go ahead and move into the next game. We are going second as usual here. I did actually consider, you know, whether it's right to go first or not in this format, if I think there's going to be a lot of Zoodiac mirrors. If the meta ends up progressing in such a way where everybody just plays Zoodiac by day 3, then I think there's a chance. I don't know for sure yet. I have to think about it more. It might be right to go first in the Zoodiac mirror, because we can set up a Drident and just pop whatever Zoodiac monster our opponent normal summons, and then, like, what do you do at that point? And we're not as hurt by the hand traps. I mean, Maxx, Ash, Nibiru, the hand traps do still hurt us a little bit, but not as much as, like, other decks would. So we don't mind playing into some hand traps on turn 1. Plus, we could potentially set up Draco Future on turn 1 as well. So I don't know. I still have to think about that. But again, that would only really be relevant in a case where Zoodiacs are, like, at least, like, above 50% of your matchups. Here I am just going to start setting up my Zeus play. This Called By against my opponent's Ash, since I had an Ash in hand, especially because I'm playing against Madolches, I actually should have thought about that more. It probably would have been fine to let my desires get negated, especially because I just drew a second Ash and a second Whiptail, but, you know, even before I knew what I was drawing, I did kind of think, like, oh, maybe I should have just let that resolve the Ash so that I could Ash my opponent, but... Yep, I'm going to go into Zeus, as always here. Good old Zeus. This is why I'm surprised they didn't, you know, ban this card for this format. I kind of thought that Zeus was just going to dominate. Like, every XYZ deck can make Zeus, right? I kind of figured Zeus was just going to dominate here. And, yeah, I mean, our opponent's going to normal summon. I'll Zeus, they get the extra normal summon for Hoot Cake. I'm going to Zeus again. They only have one card in hand, so I'm fine Zeusing only one card there. And that is going to be it for that. So we do have one game here, and this last game is actually pretty perplexing. And I wonder if any of you in the comments are going to be able to answer some questions I have about this game. So I played against another game against this deck we're about to play against. I've only ever seen this deck in the festival. I've never seen it on ladder at all. And I don't really know what it's trying to do, right? So our opponent's going to get the first turn. They're going to activate Cup of Ace, which I'm like, ooh, okay, this is interesting. Alright, they lose the coin flip. Good for us. We get to draw 2. Okay. Then our opponent's going to play Hand Destruction. I'm like, okay, Exodia is banned. What are they going for here? We draw the Droll unlock, so I'm going to pop it off right away. Then our opponent's going to Cybernetic Fusion support, which in a format where you can't Fusion Summon and have their life points and pass. So I'm like, alright. I mean, they're clearly just trying to lose. Like, is this like a reversal quiz kind of a thing where you want to lower your own life points and then somehow swap life points with your opponents and then OTK them that way? I really didn't know what was going on here, so I mean, I can't win this turn anyway, so I didn't attach the Whiptail. I figured I'd just leave it in hand and, you know, like, I just play optimally because I really don't know what's about to happen. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just go into Zeus like I always would. I shouldn't. Even if your opponent is playing weirdly like this, you know, it might be tempting to diverge from your game plan as well. Because you're thinking like, oh, my opponent is like doing some next level game plan. Should I diverge from mine because they're playing around me? I mean, that's going to lead you to lose more often than anything else against not just this deck in particular, but I mean decks in general. Like, if your opponent's doing weird stuff, that doesn't mean you should also be doing weird stuff to, like, you know, respond. I mean, yeah, like, I'm just going to set up the Zeus and set the Imperm in the middle column and pass, and our opponent's going to Garbage Ogre for Garbage Lord, special summoning it by paying 2,000 life points. They activate this Perform Pal Paparoo, which is kind of like a reload. I'm just going to negate it with Impermanence. And then our opponents, spoiler alert, they're going to attack the Garbage Lord into Zeus. So that kind of confirms my suspicion that this deck is just built to lose. Which I don't get what the point of that is. Let me actually look at the deck list again here. And like I said, I've played against 2 of these. I didn't save the replay of the other one, but maybe there's something. No, their extra deck is just like Numerons and Jinzo Layered, Utopic Dragon, Zeus. I mean, they can't summon any of this. They don't have a win condition in their deck. I'm not really sure. Yeah, like I don't really know what's going on here, to be quite honest. If someone in the comments knows, that would be greatly, and you could share, that would be greatly appreciated if you could share some enlightenment, because you don't get medals for losing, right? So there's no reason to even lose farm. I don't understand why you would build this deck and lose farm, but well, in any case, that is going to do it for this video. Again, I've got replays for you this time just because I wanted to get these games out so that I could get this video out today, just so I could, you know, because I'm really excited for the XYZ Festival, and I really want to, like, start sharing a lot of videos for it. But yeah, tonight I'm going to have more opportunities to play in the event. I'm going to try to get some live commentary recorded, and who knows, maybe we could even start seeing some other decks besides Zoodiac. We'll have to see. In the meantime, keep on watching. I appreciate it as always. This is XLex, signing out. Have a fantastic day.